Lane's End, A Journey into the Paranormal. Chapter 1, Madonna on the Curb. Location, I-40 eastbound near exit 117, Mesita, New Mexico. 5:32 p.m. Thursday, August 16th, 2012. Odessa Kearney was distracted by an image in her side view mirror. Some yahoo in an old Pontiac Grand Prix was zooming up in the left-hand lane at about 100 miles per hour. When he cut back into the right lane and came too close to her truck's lion hood ornament for comfort, she leaned on the horn, her only available countermeasure reserved just for those occasions. As the passing phantom pulled away from her dirty windshield's view, she was greeted by a stubby finger held out of the car's front passenger window. "Jackass," she muttered, flashing her brights. She had learned long ago not to engage in road rage with her fellow travelers, so instead of fight or flight, her shot of excitement triggered a torrent of introspection. Odessa quickly dismissed the offending vehicle as it disappeared up the road and switched her thoughts to Chris, her only child from her current marriage. 27 years old next week, she had to remember to give him a call in California to wish him a happy one. She missed him, but what she really missed was the time she was a full-time mom for that all-too-brief period between preschool and college. When he turned 19, left the dorm, and went off to San Francisco with that what's-her-name, she cried for days. A generation earlier in the 1950s, Chris's mom was born on the west side of Chicago to no particular fanfare. Piloting an 18-wheeler was not something every little girl wanted to do at the time she grew up, but 34 years after her fascination with a matchbook cover and many wrong turns later, Odessa's still obsessed about her choices. "Learn to drive the big rigs," the matchbook had advised. The message must have had its subliminal effect as she ultimately began a lifelong journey inside of a metal beast, one that was to gradually envelop her in its inscrutable cocoon. I-40 eastbound at exit 39, rest area east of Gallup, New Mexico, 9:14 p.m. Wednesday, August 15th. The day before her incident with the Grand Prix, Odessa was blurry-eyed from a day of hard driving. Rest area 2 miles, a familiar blue sign reflected back its message. She had driven across the border from Arizona into New Mexico, let off the gas, shifted down, and deftly maneuvered the grateful rig off the interstate into the refuge. She dimmed the lights, joining the herd already asleep. Squeezing into a good spot close to the facilities, she did not care if she was between the lines. It was late, and the advancing darkness matched her state of mind. Random thoughts rushed around her head. She thought about walking away from her marriage. Could she have run over that guy at the loading dock? Would she ever get abducted by aliens? Though momentarily energized by these unanticipated sprouts of fear, she realized she was guilty of unpoliced thinking. She self-consciously released her grip on the wheel, putting her hands in her pockets and settling in to collect herself. After a minute of staring into her reflection in the side window, she shut down the engine, turned off the interior lights, and climbed into the berth and back. Simply too tired, she passed on the obligatory trip to the women's room. That could wait until morning. Stretching out like a cat, the long-distance driver closed her eyes. They danced beneath her lids as a dream conjured up a montage of childhood memory. She was back in first grade at Our Lady of Grace, and in the classroom crowded with her peers, she was delightfully chasing a boy, her first boy friend. As they playfully ran around the diminutive chairs and desks, Sister Teresa's dark form dutifully intruded between them. "Stop running!" she screamed. She looked at Odessa as if she was about to save her from Satan himself. "Leave that boy alone. It's against the church." Odessa awoke at that instant, still smarting of guilt from the dream nun's admonition. Growing up Irish Catholic in the 50s in Chicago left its mark. She remembered how to diagram sentences and multiply triple-digit numbers before calculators were invented, but the anxiety infused by the good sister was still with her. "Damn her," she exclaimed to herself, but the curse failed to expel the demon, and her comfort lingered into her waking state. She wondered why. A vague anxiety filled the cab. The year was 2012, and she was in a truck in the American Southwest somewhere along the interstate highway that Eisenhower built over 5 decades earlier to replace Route 66. It was far from the busy streets of Chicago that had to be safely crossed by small children learning how traffic lights worked and why cars and trucks sped carelessly by. The big city was her cradle of civilization, where she learned not just the 3 R's from the nuns, but also about the boogeyman from her older brother. That little girl from the streets of the city pavement had long since grown up. As she made what might be her last appointed journey, this American woman's life reduced itself to 2 simple issues. Would she be able to make her delivery from Phoenix to Albuquerque without mishap and still get home in time for her father-in-law's 80th birthday? Should she tell her husband David that she wanted a divorce before or after the party? 4:32 a.m. Thursday, August 16th. Unable to get back to sleep, Odessa emerged from her accommodations and slipped back into the driver's seat. She looked out the windshield only to notice a man standing in the shadows next to the women's room. He was wearing a black knit cap and overalls, the kind you'd see a mechanic wearing after an especially dirty job. Under the dirt was probably faded orange. His darkened face was obscured by a scraggly beard and untrimmed hair stuck out from his cap. He just stood there, an odd combination of man and building where people usually scurried in and out. Then his eyes caught hers, and perhaps 10 seconds of mutual staring ensued. A chill ran down Odessa's back. Not wishing to confront that disturbing image further, she climbed behind the wheel, cranked up the Cummins ISX power plant, slipped it into first gear with a crunch, and hurriedly pulled out. When she glanced back at the building, the man was gone. Whether real or imaginary, he left behind a feeling of dread and a vivid memory that scared her far more than the Sisters of Fear ever did.